Hello and welcome to Faithfully Stampin' with Jennifer Helm. I'm Jennifer Helm, the Faithful Stamper, and I'm an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up! Today I have for you a gift card holder. I like to make gift card holders from time to time. They're really handy to have for those occasions where you want to slip a little gift card. Maybe I like giving people little $5 gift cards sometimes, teacher gift cards for birthdays and holidays. So this is a really handy gift card holder to make. It looks like one I've made before, but it's done a little bit differently. So I'm going to show you how to make it tonight. The original design is inspired by Michelle Soot. I saw this project that she made. She used the adorable little turtle suite that we have. And so I just picked my own stamp set and papers and created this one. So this is from the Along the Lines stamp set. I really like the artwork for this. It's kind of different. There is a bike, a birthday cake, a dog, a tiger, I think a dolphin, a flower. There's a whole bunch of different things. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started, and I will show you how easy it is to make this. So we're going to start with a card base. This is 5.5 by 11. So a little bit different from your standard size card base. This is Summer Splash. It's one of the in colors that was introduced last year. So I pulled all my colors tonight from this designer series paper, the wood grain. Love that. It's one of my favorites. I've not wanted to cut into it, but I'm trying to be brave and bold and cut into my paper. So as I said, 5.5 by 11. And I have Post-it notes with all the measurements in case you want to take screenshots or take notes as you are watching. So let me move that over. So for this card base, as I said, 5.5 by 11, we're going to score on the long side. So 4 1/4 is our first score line. Make sure you are using your score blade. Move your cutting blade down out of the way. I've had a couple near misses lately where I've caught myself just in time. My second score line is going to be at 8.5. So 2 score lines. Then what I'm going to do, I'm going to close this so you can get a better view of what I'm doing here. We are going to rotate the card base. So I have the 11-inch side. I'm going to rotate it so the small panel's at the top. You can go ahead and fold now if you want, or fold later. I'm going to fold mine so that you can see a little bit easier what I'm doing. So what we're going to do with the small panel at the top is line it up at 2 3/4 inches and move your cutting blade to the top before you close your cutting arm. So 2 3/4. And we're going to cut down to that lower score line. So we're going to cut completely through the top 2 panels. There are hash marks on the sides of the cutting blade and the scoring blade too, for that matter. But we're going to pull it down until the cutting blade lines up with that lower score line. And that's where we're going to stop. You can lift up. So you can see I've got a kind of interesting looking shape at this point. So I'm going to flip this over. This is actually the back panel of my card. And what I'm going to do is the lower part that we've cut is the pocket for the gift card. So we want to cut off these 2 panels. So what I like to do is keep this folded and just flip the whole thing over, put it back in my paper trimmer, and I can line the score line up right along the cutting track. It matches at the top. And then I can just take my cutting blade and cut back up. And just like that, I have my gift card holder ready to go. You could always cut that off with scissors if you like, but I find this works pretty well. Okay. So now let's get to decorating. I like to start with the inside and work my way out, and I'll tell you why I do that in a minute when we get there. So for the inside layers of the card, I am using a colored panel. This is Misty Moonlight. And I'm going to glue this in the back of the card first, and then basic white. This is 5 by 3 3/4. So 2 layers on the inside. Now for these layers, you do not need any special adhesive. There's only one particular part that's coming up in just a minute where I recommend using a certain type of glue, but otherwise use your favorite adhesive. Now I'm going to do something I don't normally do, and I'm going to glue this in a while. You'll see why in a little bit, but you can always just hold off on this for now or just lay it in place without the glue until you get a feel for putting these together. Since I've done a couple of these, I know what I'm doing. Okay, so once the panels here are in place, we're gonna go ahead and make our pocket. So we've got this piece that we're going to fold over, the little panel on the end. You could leave this blank if you wanted. You could stamp on it, use embossed cardstock or designer series paper. So the little piece for the inside is 2.5 inches tall by 2.25 inches wide. So not quite square. I am going to put adhesive on this and then center it on the small panel. And once that's in place, I'm going to take a small punch. I've got a 1-inch punch handy. You could go up to maybe 1.5 inches, but I wouldn't go a lot bigger than that. And just punch a little notch out for your gift card pocket. Now, here's where that special adhesive comes into play. You want something with a firm grip so your pocket doesn't come back open, but you don't want to have anything too wide because your gift card will not fit. The gift card pocket, let me find my gift card here, is a very snug fit. Not a lot of room for error. So, that helps if you can do it without catching the edge. Ugh, see? Nice, tight fit. So what you want to do is either use liquid glue and keep your ribbons of liquid glue, your lines close to the top and bottom, or you can use tear and tape. So our tear and tape is 1/4 inch wide. You don't want to go any wider than that. If you happen to have something off-brand that's 1/8 inch, you could definitely use that. So I'm going to keep my tear and tape as close to the top as I can. I prefer tear and tape. I make a horrible mess with glue whenever I use it, so if at all possible, I will stick to my tear and tape. So I'm using a clear block that I can just pull back along the edge of the tape with. And you can see I've got nice straight lines there with my tear and tape. So once that's in place, or once you've got your glue lines in place, go ahead and peel the adhesive off if you use tape, fold and press. If you use glue, just hold it for a minute, let that glue catch, and then I would let it sit for a couple minutes before you move on. But then you are ready to go. So let's decorate the front. We're gonna start with the pocket. So the outside pocket has 3 layers. We have a Misty Moonlight layer that's 2.5 by 4. A Early Espresso layer. This is 2.25 by 3 3/4. And then finally, we have DSP, Designer Series Paper. This is 2 inches tall by 3.5 inches wide. Now, if you don't want to use Designer Series Paper, you could use cardstock, embossed cardstock. You could stamp on the pocket, whatever you want to do. You have options. So there are the measurements, and what we're going to do is layer these together on the pocket of the card. Now, this is why I waited to do the front pocket after I did the back, because now I have a really nice visual to line things up. So I'm going to start with that bottom panel and fight with my adhesive as usual. Get that off there. So this is Misty Moonlight, and what I can do, because I have the panel on the back glued down, I can very clearly see where my edges need to be to line up straight, and I can give the top and bottom a nice border. Once that's in place, I can just kind of keep rolling through the other panels. This can really be lined up with that basic white panel if you've already glued it in, or you can just hold it there and line up, and then it'll be easy to line up later. And then finally, that DSP panel, my glue, as usual, difficult on camera. Let's see. Okay. So there is our gift card. So we need to work on the focal mat now. So that is the nice image on the front of our gift card holder. We're going to start with a focal mat that is 3 1/4 inches tall by 2 5/8 of an inch wide. And then I'm going to layer, in my case, basic white cardstock on top. That is 3 inches tall by 2 3/8 of an inch wide. I'm going to show you on one of the samples in a moment how you could use Designer Series paper instead. But whatever material you're using, 3 inches tall by 2 3/8 of an inch wide. So here's where I'm going to get to my stamping. I'm going to bring over my Stampin' Pierce mat. Whoops, there's all my measurements. Because my stamp set is photopolymer. That is our clear stamp set. Stampin' Up! Is actually moving to strictly photopolymer stamps. We're phasing out the red rubber. The materials are just too hard to find. So, pardon me. Really from November on, you will be seeing just the clear stamps, but they're really great because a lot of them can be two-step stamps where you can combine images. I'll show you a sample that explains what I'm talking about, but you can also see through these. So if you make a mistake, you might be able to put a little more ink on your stamp and line it up and restamp without having to get a whole nother piece of paper. So we are using our bicycle from the Along the Lines set. I'm going to start with Early Espresso ink for my bike. And it just so happens that this bike just about perfectly fills the space here. I didn't make my panel to fit the stamp, but I couldn't really ask for a more perfectly sized stamp. Okay, so I like that, but I prefer to have, I like it to look like ground. So there are a couple different line stamps with the Along the Line set. There's a short line and this one is the long one. So let's see here. I need to find a piece of scrap paper so that I can stamp off the edges. Pardon me for not being prepared. And so what I'm going to do is just take this line and stamp below. The line stamps I find are the fussiest just because they're so narrow. They're a little hard to line up, but even then, not too bad. So there's that. That was Misty Moonlight ink, in case I didn't mention. And then Summer Splash for our birthday sentiment. I'm using Happy Birthday. This is actually from our cute little dinosaur set because I needed something that fit. And so there we go. Now, while I have my Stampin' Pierce mat out, I am going to, actually I'm gonna wait 1 second. Okay. Sometimes I get ahead of myself. So, I'm gonna take this image and layer it here on that Misty Moonlight panel. This gets put on the front of the card. However, I do not want to glue the whole thing down. Because if I did, I'd glue the card shut. So I'm going to flip this over. When I did this before, my dimensionals are not going to be cooperative this evening. So I don't know if you've seen this trick, but if you are out of dimensionals, the shapes in the middle, go ahead and cut your edges into little chunks and use those. They might be odd shaped, but they will still do what you need them to do. So I'm keeping my dimensionals at the bottom of my card panel here. Oops, that one might be a little much. We want to keep them below the gift card pocket. So wherever you position them, just make sure they're below the pocket when you glue it on. So let's see here. Okay, so there we go. Open it up. Thankfully, none of my dimensionals are showing. And if you've, by chance, put the dimensionals too low and your card is pulling away, you can just take a dimensional, peel both sides of the sticky off and kind of pull this forward and stick it down in there. That will work. Little tip from someone who may have had to do that while working on the samples. Okay, so now that one last bit of stamping. You obviously need to keep your sentiment behind the panel. So I'm using a select stamp that I know will fit. And I just kind of eyeball where I know it needs to be. Right there in the middle and not too high. So you can accent around the edges if you want. I did have a small scrap of paper, which has now taken a walk. So I can't show it to you live and in person, but for an example here, I didn't like all the white space when I initially did this card. I just thought it needed something. So I happen to have a scrap of the blue that coordinates with the gift card pocket inside. And so I added that belatedly to the card, but I like how it looks. So somewhere on my desk here, there is another scrap, and I will probably glue that once I find it. It's one of those days, apparently. Now, to finish off the card here, we are going to add some embellishments. I thought the brushed kind of brassy embellishments would look perfect with this. So I'm going to add just a couple Manly Bling to the card using my Take Your Pick tool. There we go. And finally, we need an envelope. So to coordinate with this, I didn't want to use the bike stamp on the outside of the envelope because then I felt it would spoil the card on the inside. So what I did was I cut a piece of Designer Series paper that coordinated to match the card, and I'm putting it on the envelope flap. So be sure to check the size of your envelopes. I've had differing size envelope flaps. There we go. Over the years. So I'm just putting the adhesive, if it will work, there we go, as close to the seam of the envelope as I can manage. This happens to be about 5 3/4 by 2 1/8. I know I've had envelopes that have been longer with shorter flaps. So I obviously did not cut this one very well. If I'm straight on, I actually will leave the overhang, but this one, since I did a poor job, I'm going to trim the sides. But I think I'm going to leave the little bit of paper showing. It really won't affect closing the envelope because I've got the adhesive strip here. I could, if I wanted to, trim all that off, but I'm not going to fool with that. So there is my envelope that coordinates beautifully with my gift card holder. So there is our quick and easy gift card holder. So thank you to Michelle Suit for a wonderful idea. I have another card designed in the same, using the same stamp set and the same Designer Series paper. Different wood grain here. So this is the birthday cake. Actually, I'll show you this one because I goofed up just a smidge with the line on that. But this one here, I use the DSP to stamp directly on instead of design or regular cardstock. You could also, I think, play with this panel if you wanted to make it bigger. You could add another layer. It's totally up to you. Use whatever you like for your materials, Designer Series paper, embossed cardstock, whatever. Here I added a banner. And then again, there's our inside. And I mentioned that two-step stamping with our photopolymer stamps, and this is a great example. This is our Jar of Joy stamp set, which coordinates with our Sweet Jar Builder Punch. And the regular Sweet Jar stamp set has kind of everyday artwork, birthday candles, chocolate chip cookies, hearts, I think even shamrocks that would go inside the jar. And it, of course, has the jar and the lid. So this is our Jar of Joy, which is more holiday themed. So the gingerbread men, aren't they cute? There's a snowman you can put inside, Christmas ornaments. So fun different combinations. And I mentioned that two-step stamping. I stamped first in the brown, the pecan pie, And then all I had to do was stamp my the coordinating stamp in Real Red ink, and I lined up the bow tie and really this piece here and made sure my star looked kind of centered, and there I could put it all together and give a really fun image. I added a little accent here with our speckle stamp that comes in the stamp set as well. And I didn't feel like designer series paper inside, so I carried that speckle over, tone on tone, garden green ink, garden green cardstock. And then I cleaned the stamp and used my Real Red ink to add a little dimension here. Just kind of drawing the eye and taking away some of that white space. So there is our quick and easy gift card holder. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to check out my videos. If you are new here to the channel, I would love for you to subscribe. You can see all the content that has been posted here on the page. If you are a fan of Facebook, you can find me there as The Faithful Stamper. I do live videos on Monday evenings. I share more information about, sometimes I do contests myself, where if you create a card, I put your name in for a random drawing for a prize. I share lots of information there about products, announcements, kits that are coming, catalogs, etc. If you don't have a demonstrator and would like to have a paper copy of the catalog, please feel free to reach out and I will communicate with you about getting your address so I could drop one in the mail. I personally like having one to drool over, but you can check out everything online, our online exclusives at thefaithfulstamper.stampinup.net. Lots to see there, and we're just about to debut our fall holiday catalog. It's a mini catalog, which is good till the end of the year. Lots of beautiful designer series paper, holiday stamps, and more, so be sure to check that out. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, and happy crafting.